Hello there. Hello.
Hi.
Hopefully this thing's on. It is. Okay, good. Becky's on. Good. Hey, this is Bo from BEAU'D Not Broken. This is the Daily Bend, and we're here Tuesday morning early here at just did my pull-ups, and we're here in South Jordan, Utah with Paula. Paula's here to talk to us, and she'll talk about a few things before she was worried about her ensemble. So
We're working out.
We'll worry about that in just a second. Thanks for joining us on the Daily Bend each and every day, where people tell their stories. They tell their stories of adversities and successes and all those things that somebody might say something on the show that might help you or help someone else. So hopefully you watch. We had some great shows last week. I really appreciate the ladies that were on Friday. Had to double shoot on that one, Michelle and Lori. That was a double shoot, so we really appreciate that. And so onward and upward. We download these onto BEAU'DNotBroken.com and on YouTube, so we hope you'll watch. And we never know what we're going to get. This is unscripted, and it's something that it's all good, and everybody likes it. Want to point out on my shirt today, whatiback.com, and that's Steve Ace and his company, his brand. He's one of our sponsors, so I want to thank whatiback.com for being a sponsor of the show. And here we go. Paula.
Hi.
How are you? Thanks
well.
for being here early. Well,
Thank you.
She has to be here early anyway because she has to work out. But
You have to kick my butt.
go ahead.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us a little bit why, what some of the important things that you wanted to say. I know it's sometimes hard to get your thoughts together, and there's
Yeah.
no pressure, so go ahead.
Yeah, well, I watched Lori's and Michelle's show last week, and I think that is what gave me the push to come on and talk. I know I've wanted
good.
to, but that whole thing about shame and we need to break open our fears and live in vulnerability, and that was huge for me. That was huge.
Oh,
So,
good.
yeah, what I wanted to talk about a little bit today is getting over
You might have to speak up just a little bit, but
Little
you're
bit?
okay. You're all right. You're good.
getting over addictions and past wounds, and not having those childhood injuries, I guess,
Right.
stop you from being whatever you want to be.
Were you a victim of that? I mean,
I
when you
was.
were younger,
Yeah.
was that something that was a cycle in your life, or a cycle with your parents? And,
Yes, very much.
And so you were abused, your brothers and sisters, or
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
And what was behind that? What were some of the things behind that
I think
abuse?
it was a cycle. My mom had been abused, and first off, I want to say I've talked to my mom about this. I've talked to my dad about this. They're amazing people.
Right.
Just kind of like what Lori and Michelle were saying is you have sickness and then you have yourself, and they're good people.
Right. Right.
And this happened 20, 30 years ago. So before I even start speaking, I've had their permission. I've, not permission, but I've told them. And my mom is so gracious. She's like, whatever you need to do to heal, whatever you need to do to help other people. So I want to put that out there first. But yeah, I was very abused. And I've had lots of people ask me throughout the years, how did you do it? How do you stay positive? How do you, not just curl up in anxiety and not push through? And for me, a lot of it was my own God, my own belief in energy, and people, strong people, surrounding myself with people that at first, before I get to know them, I've kind of been intimidated by them. And those are the people I tend to reach out to. And then you raise yourself, you raise the bar, and you become stronger. And so that's kind of how I've done that.
You're watching the Daily Bend, and Paula, the Daily Bend, we come to you every day, BEAU'D Not Broken Network. We talk to people that tell their stories in their own way that might be able to help people. Very unique, and we're glad that Paula's with us today. So you were physically abused, emotionally abused,
Yes.
obviously.
Yes.
you don't have to really go into all of that, but at what point in your growings up, I guess, what was the kind of the first sign of, wow, this really isn't normal? And then, so that first time you kind of went, well, this is a little bit different than some of my other friends, or maybe not. And then what was your kind of epiphany moment where you could see this was kind of a cyclical thing and not really your fault, I guess?
Right. Very early on, I knew that something was wrong. I grew up in a neighborhood with great people, great surrounding. My family was Mormon.
Right, you can say that. We've had people on that.
I don't want to offend.
Well, no, it's okay. There's things that aren't talked about in that community that should be talked about.
And I think the image is a huge thing. At least I can only speak for me and myself. And, so, you'd go to church and it would be a certain way, you'd be a certain feel and a look, and at least for me.
Right.
And then you'd go home and it would be something completely different. Also, there was alcoholism in my family, so just going to my friend's house, that wasn't available. So, right. What's my point?
So you went through your teenage years that way, and then at what point? Was it after high school? Was it during high school?
It was
or was
during
it
high
just
school.
A few years ago that you know?
No, it was during high school when I moved out and I moved to my friend Sheree the Olson's house. I left. It just was too much.
So you did leave. You left the house. Okay.
I left the house, and I lived with Sheree and her family, and my best friend. Great family. My family's a great family, and they had that family. They were strong. They didn't have those addictions. They had their own problems. Everybody does. Right. But I think, again, stepping through that fear of leaving and knowing that, because it was scary leaving. I was scared that I wouldn't have a family again. But yeah.
Seems to me that the Olsons were not judgmental.
No, not at all. Not at all. And there were many families throughout the years growing up that I kind of just sort of bounced from a little bit that helped.
What did you rely on? What did you rely on early on in your life? I mean, it's probably different now because you've had your own children. Alcohol was the...
Alcohol and prayer. I know they're just different.
Alcohol and prayer, okay.
I'm sorry, they're at different ends of the spectrum. I know this. But when I first started coming out of this... or learning how to cope, I guess, with the pain.
Excuse me.
School was more of like a fun time for me. It wasn't time to learn. It wasn't time to, because at home it was so destructive for me that when I got to school, it was about, if I needed to cry, I'd cry there. If I needed to goof off, I would goof off. So once I was out of high school, I immediately got married.
How did it affect getting married? Was it did you pretty much stop thinking about that, or was that always in the back of your mind as you're going through early marriage?
It's always in the back of my mind. But it distracted me. And I was so lucky to have 3 amazing kids. And that is what healed me the most, was having my babies and being able to, I just exploded love on them. And
so you stopped the cycle. So you weren't abusive and you weren't,
we
you
all
weren't
had our
in the
problems.
emotion. Well, no, I realize that, somebody may need a spanking once in a while
there's
or whatever.
And
But so that was kind of your healing, your therapy was to have these children and look at them and go, boy, if I were to do the same thing that what happened to me, then I would really I'd really have a problem.
And I think some people say, oh man, you just, because I see them, in their 20s and now, and it's just like uber love. You just, and that's how I think you heal. You have to let go first you have to get rid of that victim mentality. There's
That's
a
an
point
excellent point.
where you are a victim,
Right.
and then there's a point where you're just putting yourself in that, oh poor me, oh woe is me, and I lived in that for a long time. And then there's so the victim mentality, and then I'm kind of at loss for words.
You're watching the Daily Bend, and we've got Paula here. She's talking about her earlier life, abuses, physical, emotional abuse, and kind of the cyclical part of it in her family. And then she talked about victimization and being a victim and trying, and to move on, she was not a victim anymore. She felt that that was something that if I'm hearing it right, was something that was able to kind of catapult you out of that, because I think I know a lot of people will stay the victim, and it's okay to mourn and be a victim and all that, but they'll stay the victim, and then that'll start them right back into that cyclical behavior. So what was it that so children really were the thing, was the thing that really kind of brought you out of that,
and realizing, I'm not the victim anymore. You know, I had my own children. I was lucky I was able to stay home with my kids. So that was a huge blessing. I mean, that marriage ended, but that was something that I will be forever grateful for, being able to stay home and take care of those kids the way that I needed to.
I know it's a real personal question, but in your marriage, was there any physical or emotional abuse there that triggered some things that?
There was not physical abuse at all. And the early part of the marriage was great. Later on,
so no big huge relapses to kind
not.
of. Okay.
Yeah, there was, you know, the alcoholism that kind of spun a little bit, and some, you know, addictions.
Right.
And then obviously my trust issues. I had trust issues with people from the very beginning because of what happened, but so that between the alcoholism and some of the addictions, my trust, it takes two to bust a marriage up. So so
through your childhood, and then even through your marriage, and beyond, have you seen this type of thing go on in other families?
Yes, and that's really, I've written a book, and I let my dear cousin read it, and he's so honest and sweet. He's like, that's pity porn. He called it pity porn.
Pity porn.
And I'm like,
there we go.
I know, and I'm like,
I pity the porn.
I pity the porn. And I'm like, what does that mean? And he's like, he talked about like, oh, you know, this happened, and I stopped doing this, and I stopped hiking, and I stopped, you know.
Oh.
And
so you were chronologically kind of going through what you were doing and how you, okay.
And that's not what I wanted to get through. I wanted to, with the book, I wanted to say, this happened, and A, B, and C, D, this is how you do it, this is what you do, and you get out there and you live and you have fun, and, you know.
So that wasn't a part of your book? Was not like a resolution or
like
a call to action?
I read it after he said that, and I was like, oh.
So have you since gone back to it, revised it,
a little
and kind
bit.
of?
I'm really busy, so I haven't had
So it's not,
time.
So your intent was not for it to be this, oh, woe is me. It was an intent to help people.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we're working on, that's a work in progress.
Have you had friends and neighbors and people like that have gone through this similar type of thing?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
can we assume, and it's kind of we already know the answer to the question, it's very prevalent that this happens in all cultures, in all areas of the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everywhere.
And that's something on the news that is so prevalent now. You see, and I think if it was, you know, you're walking down the street and you see somebody smack a dog, which now is
right.
But a child, you feel like I am going into this other person's bubble, parenting bubble. Is it my right? Do I have a right to go up to that person and say, whoa? Oh, the typical grocery store woman, you know, whack. I saw that just a few weeks ago, and that was, I mean, a pretty good whack to the face on a young child. And I just won't. I walk up I walk right up. You just, if they can do that in the store, and I'm not saying the person's a horrible human being, I am saying there's issues. And as an adult, we have the right to go up and say, can I help you? Do you need some help right now? Can I take the kid for 5 minutes? I'll walk right next to you.
We don't teach parents how to be parents, and we don't teach kids how to be kids. But yeah, there are some things that some people probably need to do or need to be able to have. It's funny, you get divorced and you have to go through parenting classes. To get married, you don't have to go through parenting classes. No. And so I have a very similar story, and I'm not going to spend any time on it, but the cyclical part of it took me the therapy probably of having kids to not do what my father did and his father and all those kinds of things. Have you identified any groups, or have you done any type of volunteer type stuff with friends or people like that to help them?
No, and that's actually why I love your show. It's such a great
there we go.
A great platform to find.
Right.
I've always wanted to be involved in how to, help in these, and I figured this was a great platform to find. How can I help? Where do people go? What is the law on somebody?
Well, I know a lot of people out there will probably focus on, there's victims advocacy type things if you're interested in that. I know of that right off the bat. The women's shelter, there's a lot of organizations that we can highlight or we can put on the website and stuff like that. But if people do have the time and they do have the energy to be able to help, it can definitely be helpful in their lives and stuff like that. If you're at that point in your life, I think that's probably the next step.
Yeah.
Did you ever think, when you were a kid, I guess when you were a child, did you ever think you would get out of that situation?
No. I thought, honestly, and this is where the suicide prevention part, I really thought I was going to kill myself. That was a thought, that was I thought about it all the time until my late teens, all the time. And so, for me, again, that was God. My God, me. I'll listen to K-Love. Like when I get down, it's a music station.
K-Love.
Praise Jesus.
K-Love, there you go.
I love K-Love.
Wow, there you go. I'll have to listen to K-Love. You're watching Bowed Not Broken, the Daily Bend, and we've got Paula on, and we were talking about K-Love, which is probably like a Siri channel or a whatever, or is it some national radio station?
Amazing.
But we were also talking about, we've been highlighting suicide for the last month, and here's another regular person who had considered it or had thought about it in their teenage years, and I would imagine, in your older years as well, there are people that are all ages, and they don't feel, some of the signs, you feel like you couldn't get out of anything, didn't feel maybe appreciated, didn't feel, where's my life going? Is this what I have to look forward to? I'm not trying to take words out of your mouth, but elaborate a little bit more about that whole feeling of, you're not a bad person for feeling that way.
Right, absolutely. It's normal. I believe it's a normal feeling. I think for me, it was just emptiness. It was emptiness. It was darkness. It was not feeling loved, not feeling like real loved. And then love for yourself. I think when you're raised in that situation, you're kind of, I could be wrong, but you're starting in a little hole.
Well, no,
and you have to climb out of that hole.
You're not wrong, because it's your world. It's your world,
So I felt like I had to climb out of this hole to get to level ground.
Right.
And that was a hell of a climb.
Right.
And so it was just lonely. For me, it was anxiety, crazy anxiety. And I just wanted to be out of that anxiety. You never knew what you were going to go home to. You never knew, what was going to happen.
How do you think your parents were? Do you think your parents had the same the same issues as you probably did at the same time?
Absolutely.
Isn't that interesting? You know, that insecurity, that cyclical, well, this is the way, you know, my parents parented, and this is the way that they did it.
Right.
And you throw in alcohol, you throw in some type of abuse of something, painkiller, could be anything, and that's a combination for, you know, disaster.
It really is. And another thing with the 13, my dad's been sober 13 years now.
Wow.
Love him, so proud
That's
of
awesome.
him. But yeah, that cyclical cycle, it's prevalent.
So your parents and they've admonished, they've said that they were, you know, they know that they did some things they shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting, because a lot of times it doesn't happen that way. They don't admit that was, in my case, they would never admit that was, you know, they were abusive. No way.
Yeah, my mom and my dad, my dad's my best friend.
So are they more of the advocate? So have they advocated to you guys because you come from, how many brothers and sisters?
6.
You come from a bunch.
I come from a bunch.
And how did they all turn out, and how are they all parenting, as far as you know?
As far as I know.
Did they go through some of the same?
They absolutely did. Fears of being. I wanted to jump into being a parent. I was like, give me the babies. I want the babies. And the other ones were kind of a little bit slower at it. Like, they had some fear about, can I do this? And there's always those instincts, you know, with what you were raised with, and I don't want to call them habits. What's the word? Where it's just split seconds.
Well, if you've been conditioned in a way, because you've been conditioned that way, you're conditioned in a way to react a certain way, behave a certain way.
Right. So, you know, that's what they were worried about, and they've been great.
That's pretty much a family success story in a way. Your story is, because a lot of time, I mean, my old job, my old profession, you know, you just watched serious people after people, family after family. I mean, just continue down that line, and it was horrible to watch.
My sister Maggie, she has lots of little kids. She's still popping them out.
Popping them out there. Wow.
and she just loves it. She loves it. Bryce, who's a doctor out in South Carolina, has a little Coleman, and he's adorable. And
all these successful, very successful siblings.
And then
so, what's I guess what if you were to tell somebody out there that might be a teenager, it might be a parent that might be questioning, am I parenting, you know, in the right way? We never want to throw our own parenting skills on somebody, but if somebody kind of goes, oh wow, maybe I need to kind of look at how I'm doing something different, or need to do something different, what would you tell someone that was in your situation as a teenager?
Get out of it. Get out of it. Find, if you have a friend, if you have a teacher, if you have, the sooner you can get out of it, the better.
Right.
Don't be afraid of telling someone. It's not that you hate your parents or you're against your parents, but what is happening is not because maybe they don't love you, it's because they don't know any better, or they're sick and they need some help. So the sooner that you are able to step out of that situation and say, hey, this is going on.
Right.
I need help and my parents need help.
So you did it without any type of therapy or anything like that?
Oh, I went to therapy.
Did you? Oh, awesome. Because I
went to therapy.
Big proponent of professionals that have been trained in that area, you know, not just through life, but you know, properly trained through that.
Yes.
So you did have some help, which was good, and did a lot of work on your own.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's where the idea for the book, my therapist Diane Hill, she was like, you need to write a book.
Well, you need to finish your book and
well,
get
it
that
has
book
to be
out.
Positive and good energy, and
well,
you know,
yeah, it does,
so,
but
no
I mean,
pity porn here.
If you've already written it, you just need that last boom, you know. I think that would help. You know, I think anything like that would help people, especially It happens in affluent neighborhoods. It happens in poor neighborhoods. It happens in African American neighborhoods. It happens in white neighborhoods. It happens it happens in America. It happens in Utah. It just happens all the time.
It does. And it needs to be spoken about. If you see somebody like in the grocery store all the time, just ask that person, can I help you? Like that child, I saw people watch.
Right.
And I would legit look at their eyes like, are you going to let this happen?
Right.
Like, are you... So the children are aware. They're aware that other people are saying this is okay to happen to me.
And don't forget, people out there, I think, your story is a perfect example of personal influence. A lot of times people, they don't realize their personal influence. Something you might say to someone,
absolutely,
can I help you? Do you need help? Can I take the child for a second while you look at whatever in the grocery store or you're doing whatever else? That could be a trigger to help somebody and help them realize that this is something that they need to change. Now, not all the time does that happen. I'm a realist as well.
Yes.
But at least you can try. At least you can, help out.
Absolutely.
Growing up, who are your heroes?
Heroes. Oh, I don't.
See, no, she's her own hero.
No, I'm not.
She's a hero.
No.
See?
I didn't have, really growing up, I didn't have time to think about heroes. I didn't have time to, or the emotional capacity, I guess is the word. I was empty. I was like, So I think I was just more busy trying to get friends or trying to prove myself that I was okay. Or so growing up, I really didn't have heroes. I had great aunts. My aunties were my aunties.
There you go.
Were amazing.
Right.
I went
good
to them,
examples.
Great
good
examples. Fun examples.
Oh, good.
So yeah.
How about movies? Any type of movies, inspirational type things? Besides The Notebook? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I liked musicals. Like
musicals, wow.
Phantom of the Opera.
Wow.
Yeah.
Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah. Musicals.
I'd break out in
sing.
I'd break out in a song, but
you don't need that.
I'd be breaking some windows in those cars out there. What else would you like to say? I mean, it's your time. Anything you want to finish up with?
Just to adults, parents, and teachers, how important your role is to reaching out to the children. And I teach, so I interact with lots of kids and adults, and it does come down to a hello, how are you? Not like, hey, how are you? But really connecting with the eyes,
listening,
and giving out that energy. And people open up if they think you're sincere, if they know you're sincere. They'll open up, and if they need some help, they'll tell you.
Right.
If they feel it, if they feel that you honestly care.
Right. Young and old, right?
Absolutely.
Young and old.
Yep.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. I know a lot of times it's not very comfortable to try and do that. We didn't go into blood and guts.
No.
I hope you'll finish your book too, and all that kind of stuff, and you're obviously helping people and continue to help people continue to reach out like you are. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. You did a great job for being so nervous.
I know. I'm about ready to vomit.
Now it's time for you to work out for a few minutes. Thanks for watching. You've been watching The Daily Bend. Each and every day we come to you. We'll download this onto the website. And if you like what you see, throw it out there. Like it, share it, do all that kind of stuff. And again, I'll keep plugging it. We're still looking for more sponsors for the show. I'd love to have people help us bring this show to even more people than it's going to now. My first goal is to get into that old motorhome and travel Utah and talk to regular people, and so hopefully that'll happen in the next few months. But thanks for watching, and Paula, thanks for coming.
Anytime.
And we'll see you tomorrow.